You walk past it without noticing, not even on purpose. It's just there. Small, pale, sitting in the grass like it forgot to leave. Agaricus bisporus, a fungus, which means it's not a plant, not an animal. Just this third thing that nobody really thinks about until it shows up on pizza. But it's alive. Definitely alive. Just not in any way that makes sense if you're used to things that move or breathe or blink. The mushroom part, that's not even the organism. That's just reproduction equipment. The actual living thing is underground. A network of threads, mycelium, spreading through the soil like the world's most boring subway system. You'd never see it unless you dug. And even then, you'd probably just think it was mold. But it's working constantly, breaking down dead stuff, leaves, manure, anything organic that stopped moving. It can't photosynthesize, no chlorophyll, no sun powered snacks, so it just eats what's already dead. Releases enzymes into the dirt, dissolves things externally, absorbs the results. Lunch is a chemical process. The mushroom only shows up when the mycelium's had enough. Enough moisture, enough food, the right temperature. Then it's like, fine, I'll fruit. And it does. Fast. Pushes up through the soil in a day or two. Just appears. White dome, tightly closed. Looks like a little fist. That's the button stage. The cap's wrapped around the stem, hiding the gills underneath. There's this thin membrane, the veil, keeping everything sealed. As it matures, the cap opens, stretches, the veil tears, and those gills turn from pale pink to chocolate brown. That's where the spores are, millions of them. They drop, drift off, land somewhere random. Most die immediately. A few don't. Those ones germinate. Start a new network. Repeat the whole thing. Here's the weird part. This species makes 2 spores per cell. Most of its relatives make 4. Why 2? No idea. Nobody knows. It just stuck around. Wasn't bad enough to disappear. The mushroom doesn't last long. A week, maybe 2 if it's lucky. Then it gets soft. Beetles move in. Bacteria start dismantling it. The whole thing collapses back into the ground. But the mycelium? Still there. Still fine. Can sit dormant for months if it has to. Comes back when rain shows up. Temperature's important. Too hot, it stops. Too cold, same thing. There's this narrow zone where it actually thrives. Cool but not frozen. Damp but not drowned. It needs oxygen too. Bury it too deep and it just quits. The cap is fragile. Mostly water, like 90%, which makes it terrible at surviving anything. Too warm and it rots. Too dry and it cracks like old paint. The whole operation is on a timer. Fruit, spread spores, collapse. Done. People noticed it growing in fields, pastures, anywhere animals were leaving manure around. It loved that. Thrived, actually. So someone figured out you could just make that happen. Compost, straw, moisture, boom, mushrooms. That's how it became the first cultivated fungus. Not because it was impressive, because it was easy. Didn't need a forest, didn't need some rare tree, just needed dead stuff and the right temperature. Low standards, high availability. Now it's all clones, tissue culture. Take a chunk of mycelium, grow it in a lab, inoculate the substrate. Every single farmed mushroom is genetically identical to the last one, and the one before that, and the one before that, which means the farmed population isn't evolving at all, just copying itself forever. The wild ones are still out there doing actual reproduction, mixing genes, changing slowly. But the grocery store ones? Frozen in time. Same mushroom since whenever we started cloning it. You'd think that would be a problem. Maybe it is. But the mycelium grows fast, colonizes in days, fruits in weeks. You can even harvest it multiple times. Flushes, they call them. First flush, second flush. Each one smaller and slower. Eventually, it runs out of food and gives up. In the wild, it's messier. It fruits after rain. When autumn cools things down, the mushrooms pop up, open, drop spores, then disintegrate. The mycelium just keeps going, spreads a little, waits for the next opportunity. It's not competing like animals compete. No territory fights, no hunting. It's just occupying space. Breaking things down. If another fungus or some bacteria shows up in the same spot, it releases chemicals to slow them down. Quiet chemical warfare. Nothing dramatic. The gills are kind of amazing if you actually look. Hundreds of thin blades packed tight, each one covered in these tiny club-shaped cells that make the spores. Two per cell. They mature, detach, drop. Most land a few centimeters away. Some drift further. It's not a great dispersal strategy, but it makes so many spores that a few have to work out. The cap expanding. That's not even real growth. The cells were already there, formed underground when the mushroom was still a little nub. They just inflate, suck up water, stretch out. That's why it happens so fast. It's not building anything new, just unfolding what already exists. Humans have been eating this thing for centuries. It was never rare, never special, just available. Growing where we kept livestock, where manure piled up. Wasn't poisonous, didn't taste awful, so people kept eating it. Now it's the most farmed mushroom on the planet, grown in dark, climate-controlled rooms, harvested early before the veil breaks, before it gets too brown, packed in boxes, sold next to the lettuce. But out in some field right now, the wild ones are still there. Still pushing through wet grass after rain, still dropping spores that drift maybe a meter before landing, still collapsing back into the soil a week later. The mycelium underneath doesn't care. It's already moving on to the next thing that's decomposing. That's been working for a very long time.